This is quite literally a story about bad vibes. I'm Aiden Mattis, and welcome back to the Lore Lodge. On November 10th, 2014, a man named Kenny Veach set off from his Las Vegas, Nevada home to explore a vast, beautiful wilderness in the Mojave Desert in a search for a mysterious cave that he allegedly had found at some point prior to this. The 47-year-old was active on YouTube more as a commenter than a video maker, and he got himself down a really weird rabbit hole that involves caves, government conspiracies, a lot of people have talked about aliens, and nobody is quite particularly sure what happened to Kenny Veach. But we're going to tell you the story as it's available to us now, 8 years later. Kenny was a 47-year-old man, a bit of an artist, eccentric but in a charming way. Not the sort of weird that makes you feel uncomfortable, the sort of weird that makes you want to root for him. Out of the 5 videos posted to Kenny's YouTube channel, snakebitmcgee, 3 of them are actually just Shark Tank pitches, and they're for creative, if somewhat tchotchke-like products. One is a glolar bear, which is a glowing polar bear meant to bring awareness to the climate situation in the Arctic. Another is an advanced toilet paper roll holder that is spring-loaded, and honestly, I kind of want one. That seems very valuable. And then there's a number of other miscellaneous ones, a video about his life as something of a denim cowboy, and the M Cave hike. And to understand why Kenny made the M Cave hike video, we've got to dig into some of his YouTube commentary. You see, Kenny was really interested in aliens, and not in a I have an abduction story kind of way. More of a he found them interesting, and of course living within 3 hours of Area 51, that's kind of the UFO capital of the world. Kenny got a lot of his information about aliens from YouTube, and one channel that he seems to have frequented was called Serious Disclosure. And Serious Disclosure is a channel dedicated to cooperation with the extraterrestrials. They say they're interested in developing a peaceful relationship with the aliens, hopefully to avoid something like Independence Day.
Welcome to Earth.
One of the videos on the Serious Disclosure's channel is called Son of an Area 51 Technician, and the story is just basically this guy going on to talk about what his father disclosed to him while he was drunk. Kenny left a comment on that channel, on that particular video, reading the following. "This ain't nothing. I am a long-distance hiker. One time, during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to that cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find," and I just need to pause there. Kenny, my guy, you're not supposed to enter every cave you find, especially not when you're solo hiking and nobody knows exactly where you are. For anybody watching this, if you ever have the urge to enter a cave alone on an uncharted route when nobody knows your precise location, don't do that. That's a great way to not exist anymore. But he goes on, "As I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that's ever happened to me." Now, when you make a claim about vibrating M-shaped caves on the internet is going to do what the internet does, which is demand that you prove it. As someone who regularly makes outrageous claims on the internet, I am quite familiar with this process. Now, this comment was posted about 4 months before Kenny actually went on his infamous M Cave hike video trip. And throughout those 4 months, there was a bit of an argument in the comments section, with people going back and forth, Kenny getting defensive, and I'll read you some more of his comments. But the man was not to be denied. He was positive that he had seen this cave, and he was adamant that this experience was real. To some, the way that Kenny's comments come across as egotistical or arrogant. To others, they might just sound like somebody who is defensive of a story of something true that happened to them, and now they feel as though, without any evidence to the contrary, they're being devalued or misrepresented. Kenny goes on to say the following. "I solo hike across mountaintops that most people wouldn't dare go. I have been in more caves than I care to count. I play with rattlesnakes for fun, but this one particular cave was beyond anything I had ever encountered. Someday I will go back and I will bring a weapon with me. All I had at the time was a knife and a wrist rocker." Eventually, Kenny did commit to going to do another trip to find this cave, to get it on video, and to prove to everybody, once and for all, that he was telling the truth, and he said the following. "Maybe it's just a strange-looking cave that has a mountain lion living in it. It should be sometime this week. I'll have my 9mm with me this time, just in case. Last time, I was unarmed. It's a 10-hour hike, no trails, very dangerous terrain. The mountain is located right next to a bombing range. While I deeply respect Kenny's adventurous spirit, literally everything he says here is a no-go. Don't do it. I am not trying to disrespect him. But this is a case study in what not to do. I have found some giant empty rounds of ammo before. I have just been waiting for the Vegas weather to cool down. It's not the kind of hike one would do in the summer, which is a good point, because this area of the Mojave can reach 130 degrees in the summer, and that's just not good for somebody with a complexion like mine or Kenny's. And to take that segue, Kenny was a lot like me. He was about 5'8", he had brown hair, wore a lot of denim. That's a little bit of a difference between the two of us, but athletic guy, pretty handsome, you know, like I said, just like me. Although I will say, for a man who was 47 years old, he was definitely in better shape than I think I will be at that age, and a bit skinnier than me. I gotta work on that for the sexy calendar, you know? Following that interaction, on October 18th, Kenny uploaded a video called M Cave Hike, which is still on the snakebitmcgee channel and has accumulated nearly 3 million views. Now, the video is about 22 minutes long, and it contains some interesting footage. It starts with Kenny speaking to the camera next to an abandoned mine shaft, and there's mountains in the distance behind him. He says that it was a bit of a hike, that he had started about 7 a.m., and it took him a few hours to get where he was at that moment, and he's just telling you what he's doing. He gives a brief explanation of his M-Cave story, talks about the route he's going to take, mentions how he's done this a million times before, shows what he was basically the exact route he plans on going, and then he shows you the mine shaft itself that's below him. And this mine shaft will be important later. If you look into the shaft, there's about 22 ladder rungs, so we're talking probably 20 to 25 feet down. There is a steel barrel, a 55-gallon drum, so you can pretty confidently say that the last time this cave was used was at least after 1905, when the 55-gallon drum was invented and put to market. But it's hard to determine the exact age of the shaft. The wood there is not completely broken down and desiccated, but it's definitely old. It's hard to tell precisely how old, though. And his explanation of the cave goes into a little bit more detail here. He reiterates that the cave was about as tall as he is, that it was pretty narrow, shaped like a perfect capital M, and that it was fairly deep, that he didn't go inside of it, but he could tell it went on a little ways. And he says that he's going to head down into this little canyon, and that the cave itself is going to be in the side of one of the mountains in the canyon, and that's where he's going to find it. And this point is when he actually shows you the mine shaft. I'm sorry, that was chronologically out of order, but you know, it's all right. And then somewhat ominously, Kenny says, if you fell down that, you'd be a goner. To just address this immediately before you think you know where this story is going, no, Kenny does not get found in the cave at any point. Just to get ahead of this immediately before you make any assumptions about where this might be going, no, Kenny was not found in the mine shaft. And throughout the remainder of the video, he stops to eat some berries, looks at some wildlife, and you can tell that Kenny has a real reverence for the beauty of nature. He genuinely enjoys being out there, that the wilderness is his happy place. And it's, you know, it's kind of sweet. He's commenting on the shape of rock formations, he spots a ram, and he discusses how beautiful the creature is and how big its horns are. And then at about 15 minutes 25 seconds, you can see off to his right, there's a cave that kind of looks like it's shaped like an M. It's not the shape of a perfect capital M, and it is kind of more round than anything. It's really just a angled rock formation on the side. It doesn't look the way Kenny described it. It's too low, it's too circular, you can't tell how deep it is, and Kenny just kind of walks right past it like it's nothing. It does not stick out to him. And of course, we don't get an actual timeline on when he first spotted this M-shaped cave, but he's got a pretty concrete idea of what this cave looks like. So if he had passed it, he probably would have recognized it. Some people say that, oh, maybe it had caved in, but it's too low. It couldn't possibly be anywhere near as tall as he was. But he keeps on circling back. He had said earlier in the video that he had a case of cold beer waiting for him in his truck and he can't wait to drink it. The video is kind of anticlimactic. Nothing happens. He doesn't find the cave, he works his way back, and it's pretty uneventful. The next day, he responded to a YouTube comment, reading, "Did you make it back okay?" Kenny answers, "I got back from a 10-hour hike yesterday. I completely searched the whole damned canyon. I could not relocate the cave. I found a tarantula, a tortoise, and a ram, but I could not find the cave. I don't know if you have ever climbed up and down a mountain for 10 hours, but it wore me out. All I got out of it were some nice photos and a big bag full of piñon nuts. This is the perfect time of year to find piñon nuts. Thanks for asking. I wish I could have met Kenny. He just seems like a guy.
You know, they haven't found him yet.
That's true. Perhaps he's out there. The Lemurians have him. But here's what's very interesting about Kenny. On camera, and of course he's always shooting himself. There's nobody else there. On camera, Kenny's a very happy-go-lucky kind of guy. He's got these ideas. He's just looking for, it seems like he's looking for someone to validate him in a sense. We'll get into some of the stuff that is said about Kenny by the people who knew him, but it seems like to a certain extent, he was just trying to spread joy in the world in these videos, which is why you can tell that the comments kind of hurt him, because he gets very defensive. People accuse him of lying. They say, oh, well, the cave was never out there, and you're just pretending you couldn't find it. Why would you say this? Why would you do this just for some views and some likes? It's ridiculous. Which is a weird thing to say, because Kenny's channel was not monetized, and I don't think it's monetized even to this day. Someone claims he's lying, and he says, "You're welcome to your opinion. I have a video of the hike if you'd like to see it. I hiked completely around a large mountain. Do you have any clue what it's like? There are hundreds of caves up and down the canyons I was in. I overestimated my ability to find the one I was looking for. It's rare for me to do the same hike twice. I don't use trails. I cover extremely long distances. If you think you could do better, go for it. I have to warn you, though, it's brutal on the feet. I will often lose 1 or 2 toenails after my longer hikes. The nails take such punishment that they turn black and fall off. I will say, Kenny should have devoted some of his time to writing. He's actually a pretty decent writer. If you've ever solo hiked for 15 miles into a mountainous region, and then climbed to the top of a mountain you have never even seen before, spent the night on the peak, and climbed down the next morning, and then climbed another tall mountain the next day and spent the night again, then hiked 15 to 20 miles all the way back to your vehicle the following day, worn out with little to no water left, carrying a heavy pack when you left, then barely having enough strength to climb up the stairs when you get home, and slid into a hot tub of water to rejuvenate yourself, you have no room to speak. Yes, this is what I do for fun. No, I didn't find the damned cave. I'm only a little disappointed. I can always go back and try again. I guess I need to start posting the videos of my hikes and of me catching rattlesnakes and critters. Then people like you would stop doubting me. And then something weird happens. Because, for the most part, the comments are either asking him to explain more or criticizing him, really either of those two, but one sticks out from an account called Lemmy Killmister. Lemmy Killmister. I assume this was not the Lemmy Killmister of Ace of Spades. That's probably not the same guy. So, assuming that this is not the Lemmy Killmister of Motorhead, he says, no, do not go back there. Honestly, it doesn't matter if he is the Lemmy Killmister from Motorhead. It's ominous either way. No, don't go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. If you do, you won't get out. Now, it is entirely possible this is just a concerned person who knows that going into caves alone is extraordinarily dangerous. But it comes across rather frantic, as in no, you really don't want to go in that cave. Maybe this guy knows something? It's hard to tell. But a few comments go on, and then Kenny says, I'm going again this weekend. I will be hiking solo for 3 days. I plan on covering about 40 miles. I will cross through the same canyon where I found the cave. If I don't find it again, I will continue hiking over mountain after mountain to the north of the canyon. I dare any of the people that like to run their mouths on here to join me. The hikes are brutal on the body. After one of my long hikes, some of my toenails turn black and fall off. I lose about 13 pounds of body weight. It takes me about 3 days to recover from the abuse I put myself through, but I love every minute of it. There is no guarantee that I will find the cave again. The region I cover is vast. There are many caves. I have been in hundreds of them. The M cave is the only cave I ever feared going inside. I really want to find it again. And I want to make it very clear to those watching the level of determination Kenny is showing here. And that will be important, I promise. Kenny was going to find that cave. And he seems like he was going to find that cave if it killed him. On November 10th, 2014, which was my 16th birthday, Kenny set off on a 3-day hike. He told his family where he was going. He had done this before. Nobody thought anything of it. It was just Kenny being Kenny. And it was actually a pretty beautiful day. It was 81 degrees for the high. It was 53 for the low. Dry desert sun. It's actually nice hiking weather. And Kenny was pretty good about what he wore hiking. A statement from his girlfriend claimed that he would always wear sun protective clothes, snake guards, basically think like shin guards that wrap around your whole leg, and that he knew his survival skills. He was fine. He could survive off of nuts and berries and lizards, and he carried enough water with him to get him through his hikes. So, unless he managed to injure himself, there was really nothing to worry about. Kenny would not return from that hike. And on November 14th, a woman claiming to be his girlfriend at the time, a Sherion Pilgrim, says she called the police and informed them that Kenny was missing. Now, Kenny had brought some stuff with him, which they would hopefully use to locate him. He had driven his truck out there, he had his 9mm, he had his cell phone, and he had his camping gear. But Sherion says that he did not bring his camera, which maybe he figured it was extra weight and he could always go back and film it later, once he knew the precise location of the cave. In any case, they were able to find his truck exactly where they expected it to be. And then, after some more searching, about 8 days of searching, they managed to find his cell phone at the mine shaft. The mine shaft that Kenny, as I said earlier, was not in. There is very little news coverage of this search. There is basically the Las Vegas man missing, and there is the we found his cell phone. In between, there's a moment where his daughter says that she's pretty confident they'll find him and that he's probably fine, maybe he's hurt, but he knows how to survive, he'll be all right. But over 30 searchers and a helicopter could not locate anything about Kenny after that cell phone. No clothes, no gear, nothing. Kenny had simply vanished. And there's no consensus on what happened. It seems that perhaps his family, at least his girlfriend, Sherion, accepts that he's no longer with us. Now, she does not think that he had an accident. According to her, he went into that desert to end his life. Her reasoning for this involves the fact that he left his camera behind, but he also told everyone he'd be back. Sure, it's possible that he made this decision, told everybody he'd be back so they wouldn't worry and wouldn't come looking for him, but there's that cave issue. Like I said, Kenny seemed absolutely determined to find that cave, to prove himself right. And maybe, as Sherion said, he was dealing with depression. She says that he had opened up to her about the way he felt and how he was having some money troubles. And at some points he had mentioned that he was considering suicide. Allegedly, and I am being very careful with my words here, allegedly, investigators got onto his computer and found search results that suggested he had been looking into ways to end his life. But I was unable to corroborate that story. I actually couldn't really find much news on it at all. There's very little reporting. Most of the explanation for what may have happened that we have comes from his girlfriend. So I think it makes sense for me to read that statement to you. I am the girlfriend that Kenny spoke of in the video. There are so many posts. I had no idea until a friend let me know. So many people are wondering what happened and guessing different things. You are heartfelt about the sadness around what has happened with Kenny. He has not been found, and I feel that he probably will not be found for many, many months, if ever. I want to share what I know and feel about what happened so that it might bring you some closure and understanding in your own lives. Kenny absolutely loved hiking in the desert. It was his very, very favorite thing to do. We hiked and camped together all over the Nevada desert, sometimes 9 hours in a day. We found many abandoned mining towns, usually referred to as ghost towns by Nevada hikers. We explored many caves and mine shafts. We were always careful how we explored them, but Kenny was a bit more daring than I was. We brought snake guards, sun-protected clothing, used walking sticks, brought enough water and food for the hiking hours, and had extra water and food in the car. He rarely drank all his water. We took wonderful pictures of all sorts of things we saw: rusted cars, old falling down buildings, cemeteries, mines, wild animals, tarantulas, scorpions, trees, cacti, and flowers. Our deserts are beautiful if you have a love for deserts. They are not spooky scary, but you do have to be careful of the terrain and of course bring enough water and food. We always were excited when we saw desert wildlife, like the bighorn sheep in the video. They are so stunningly beautiful to see in person in our desert. We would stand quietly still to watch them as long as possible. I was so very excited to see the one he had filmed in his video. I want you to know that I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he committed suicide. He battled depression for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor. He quit his job a little more than a year before he disappeared. He wanted to see if he could sell his inventions and do what he called cowboy interior design for homes. He bought his first home 5 years ago and had an amazing ability of decorating in this style. He was not successful in getting a business going and was running out of money after a year of not working. He no longer wanted to work in a job for someone else, and as his money decreased, he became more and more depressed. He really did not look for another job. In early October, with seeing his depression increase, I said to him, "You aren't going to pull a Robin Williams on me, are you?" It was 2014. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Man brought many, many laughs to many, many people. His loss is greatly felt to this day. This is when he opened up more about his depression and his thoughts, much of his life, about suicide. His father committed suicide when Kenny was in his early 20s. When I asked him the question, he answered me with, "If I decide to do it, you will be okay because you are good at the law of allowing." I have no idea what that means. He asked me what I would think of him if he did it. He also said if he decided to do it, no one will ever find me. It would be easy to do something like this in our desert with the number of natural caves and mines. He could hike many miles in a day, so there is no telling where or how far he could have hiked during his 3-day, 2-night solo hike. When he did not call me after the 3rd day of being gone, I called missing persons. The search for him was started within a couple days of my call. Over 30 search and rescue team members searched 3 different times on foot. 1 helicopter flyover was done, and there was no trace of Kenny or any of his camping things. They found his car in the area I told them it would be. They did find his cell phone by the mine shaft in the video. The mine shaft was only about a 4-hour hike from his car. It is my feeling he left it behind so that he could not be tracked from the GPS in it. He also did not take his video camera with him on this solo hike. It was left in his home. So he had no intention of filming anything. I share this with you for 2 reasons. First, so that you have more of an understanding who Kenny was and to bring some peace or understanding to the situation. Secondly, if any of you do decide to go out into our desert to look for him or the M Cave, be careful and bring enough water and food. Walking sticks are a good idea and not doing a solo hike. Bring a GPS and make sure that you have let family or friends know that you are heading out for the hike and where and when you will be returning. A search really can't be a 1-day hike. You would be repeating much of the same hike, just getting up the mountain and then be left with not many hours in the day to do the search. You would need 2 or 3 days at a time, and in the summer, or even late spring, this cannot be done because of the heat of our desert. You would not be able to carry enough water. So please, please be careful. I had many wonderful experiences with Kenny, and will always remember them and have a place of love in my heart for him and the wonderful things we did together. I am healing from my loss and look forward to new experiences with desert hiking, camping, and taking beautiful pictures of our desert. Enjoy your adventures of life, and thank you for the kind, loving comments sent my way. Much love, Sherion. Little smiley face. Some people doubt the sincerity of Sherion's comment. I'm not going to have an opinion on that. I don't know Sherion. I don't know what the situation was. And to me, it seems like that could have been complete honesty from her. I really have no reason to believe that she would lie. As far as I know, there weren't troubles in their relationship, and she did not stand anything to gain from his disappearance. Sherion posted that comment on December 10th, 2014. What is weird is not her comment. It's the fact that Kenny, in the M Cave hike video, showed the exact route he planned to take. And then he said he'd just keep going if he couldn't find it. This is YouTube. And while it's still in the early days of being a YouTuber as a thing, you know, we're in 2014, we're moving out of the Smosh period into the PewDiePie kind of thing, you know? For those of you who are old enough to remember that. If you're younger than 18, I'm sorry. So, naturally, a whole lot of people went looking for Kenny. Like, a lot of people went looking for Kenny, and some claim to have found the cave. For example, if you've seen the video about the Horton Mine, that guy claims he found the cave through a friend who is in the military, and that, now there's a danger restricted area sign, and there's a little wall of rocks, but that cave is maybe 3 feet high. It's got some planks of wood in it, and it's very, very shallow and pretty wide. It's not the right cave. And I don't want to make any comments about the motivations for posting that video, but it just doesn't seem like the cave. Maybe he really just wanted to put it to rest and give people the confidence that Kenny's not in that cave, but it can't be the right cave. But the thing is, we have his route. So how is it that not only did 30 search and rescue team members fail to find any trace of Kenny after the cell phone, but all of these YouTubers who combed that same canyon also didn't find any trace of Kenny? It leads you to suspect that maybe he didn't end his life in that desert, and sure, maybe he did become disoriented and wander off somewhere, but that cave keeps coming back, and it's stuck in my brain because, yeah, Area 51's 3 hours away from here. That doesn't mean that they only test weird stuff at Area 51, and while Kenny did describe the feeling as vibrations, there's some other military technologies that could be involved here. So obviously, because this is in relatively close proximity to Area 51, a lot of people suggest aliens, and that he was abducted, that the reason he disappeared is that he was simply taken up with a tractor beam. That seems rather unlikely to me, but what doesn't seem rather unlikely is that he found something weird in that cave. He was so determined to show everyone that he was right and that he wasn't lying, and that kind of determination doesn't come from a fib, and it doesn't come from somebody who's planning to die or fake their own death. It comes from somebody who has something to prove. And there are things that would create that sensation. For example, something called an active denial system. If you don't know what an active denial system is, it's basically low-power microwave radiation that the military and the police use to prevent people from going somewhere. It's not harmful permanently, but it does cause your skin to feel warm because it causes the water molecules inside of your body to vibrate, and that creates heat. And then you end up feeling like you're being blasted with a heat ray to the point where you decide to just turn around. Like, you don't really want to deal with that. There's also low-frequency sound weapons that people will use to create a feeling of unease, make your body vibrate, disorient you, things like that. There's a lot of different technologies that involve causing people to vibrate as a weapon. And then there's the not alien abduction, but still alien technology side of things. A number of people, and perhaps most famously Bob Lazar, have discussed experimentation with extraterrestrial, or at the very least, not publicly available energy sources. And in some cases, they even say that these energy sources have a consciousness. But they claim that these were being experimented on in a similar way to the Manhattan Project, with teams of scientists working on different parts. They've explained that they've worked on it, and Bob Lazar claims his entire life was destroyed because he considered leaking it, which is something the government would do. I mean, like, considering that they killed Kennedy. I think we're allowed to say that now. That's an open secret, right? Yeah, no, the government killed Kennedy. If I remember to, there will be a card right here that links to Wendigoon's video where he proves this with a whiteboard. Thank you, Isaiah. So it is certainly possible that Kenny came across something that either he wasn't supposed to find, or that the military had set up an active denial system, whether it be microwave radiation or low-frequency sound raves. Raves? Low-frequency sound rave? We're shooting this video at like 10 p.m. I am exhausted. So perchance, Kenny did come across an active denial system. Maybe Kenny persevered and did find the cave. Maybe he went into the cave. Maybe he found something in that cave he was not supposed to find, and Kenny is no longer with us as a result. It's hard to say, and I don't want to get too conspiratorial about it, and I don't want to disrespect the family by talking about the conspiracy theories surrounding it, but I feel like at a certain point you do have to acknowledge the fact that a large number of people have looked for this man, and it just does not seem like he was planning to end his life based on the way he talked about this cave. It seems like he was really determined to find that cave. And yeah, if he was planning to end things, it would be a very good excuse, but at the same time, why tell people where to look unless he was trying to throw them off? And why leave the cell phone behind? And why leave the cell phone behind specifically at the mine shaft? Why not just leave it in the car? If you were worried about triangulation or a GPS tracking system, why carry the phone with you out into the desert? This is one of those cases where, yeah, there is a possibility that there is a completely mundane explanation for what happened. But there's just enough weirdness to question it. I'm not going to make any assumptions about what happened to Kenny. It seems equally likely that he got lost, that he ended things, or that he came across something he wasn't supposed to find. Again, he said this was very close to a bombing range. Any number of things could have happened here. But they didn't find his gear, they didn't find his gun, they didn't find a body. Maybe Kenny went into a different cave. Maybe Kenny went into the M cave. Who knows what happened? I know that I really want to go look for this cave. I probably will go look for this cave if I can ever afford to. And maybe we'll vindicate Kenny. Maybe we'll figure out that, yeah, he actually did find it. I will tell you this, if I come across a cave that is making my body vibrate, I am certainly not going into it. But, you know, maybe I can find someone who's courageous, or maybe I can pay other Aiden to do it. He's small. He can fit.
I won't lie, I was expecting you to say courageous or stupid enough.
I was gonna say that, but it felt mean.
But it would have been accurate.
It would have been accurate. So, as far as that goes, I have no opinion on this one. It could be a number of things, and until I can go and check out that canyon and possibly that cave myself, I don't think I can make I can't reasonably make a conclusion here. I can't, in good conscience, give you an opinion. But you guys can absolutely let me know what you think in the comments, and I look forward to reading them. I actually do read most of the comments on our videos. I don't always respond, but I do read them. So, if you have an opinion, let me know what it is, and if you want to support what we're doing here at the Lore Lodge, you can subscribe to our Patreon for just $1 a month. You can get access to all of our exclusive content over there. You can follow me on Instagram at @TheAidenMattis, where I post shorts and other fun little stuff, some pictures, some reels, some videos. You can also check out our sponsorship links or our Amazon storefront via aidenmattis.card.co. That link is in the description. We have a coffee as well from Tableau Roasting Company. It is delicious. I highly recommend it. If you try it, you will likely keep getting it. I have yet to hear someone who does not switch to our coffee. So, if you want to check that out, that link is also in the description. You can also support us by becoming a channel member here on YouTube. I will admit that does not have quite the fun perks that Patreon does, but it's a little bit easier to do. With all of that said, I am Aiden Mattis, and thank you for stopping by the Lore Lodge.